Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I'm doing a VR2 book time with Elvis, which is an excellent username. So he did a video called 12 books that he'd save in an apocalypse, I believe is the title. And then I saw Robert G, Reader of Books, do the same tag or the same themed video or whatever. And I'll link them both below because they're both really interesting. I saw Robert G's first, I think. Yeah, I did. And he had some really interesting ones, and I've got to read a couple of them. Like, I want to read the Aeneid sometime, and I want to read some Cicero sometime. So I'm just curious. They might be good. They've lasted 2,000 years. Anyway, this book was inspired by the way Trump treated Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. And I mean, there are certainly places in the world that seem to be having their own apocalypse at the moment. In Ukraine and Gaza, Myanmar, I think, had an earthquake the other day. And I think California's on fire again, although who can keep track? It never really seems to stop. So there are a lot of crises around the world. And so this tag was a sort of, I don't know, way to try to deal with that. Like, what books would you save if you had to pack up and leave in a crisis? So, apocalypse books. Now, there were a couple of rules. I think you're supposed to have 12. They're not supposed to be in volumes, and I think there's supposed to be one since you've started your YouTube channel that you've talked about, but I haven't been on long enough to have enough of these books that I'd want to take with me. So I'm cheating slightly and not following that rule properly. And this one is technically in volumes, but it's the only one, and really it could be published as one book. It would just be a really big book, and that is The Lord of the Rings, which is one of my all-time favorite books. I've read it many times in English and once now in French, which is very exciting. I think I'd take the English version because there are some books I'd take in English and some of them are in French, and one of them is in English and Arabic. But the few that I want to take in English I would want to take because of the use of language, because it's so beautiful and just mesmerizing, and I love it. And I was actually a little bit hesitant to read The Lord of the Rings in French because I thought the language in English is so beautiful. He's a master of it. Why would I want to read it in a different language? But also I want to learn French, and it's a fun story. So I did do that, and it was delightful. I'm not good enough at French now to be able to assess how good, like, the quality of the translation was. But I do love The Lord of the Rings. And all of these books, I think, yeah, all of them, really can benefit from multiple rereads, which is another reason for choosing them. Like, every time I read The Lord of the Rings, I could notice something new. And a lot of them are quite long. Like this one, that I'm going through for the second time, and is taking me forever, and I'm that far in, which is not very far, because it's so long. It's so long. But it's beautiful. Now, the first time I read through it, I didn't love it. I'm really enjoying it the second time through. It really, the first time through this book, you really only get a taste of what the book is like. And the second time through, or the third or fourth, or I don't know, 17th, you can really do a deep dive and get more into the meat of it. And there's so much. Like, on the surface, it seems like a very simple story. You know, a man goes to the shop, he buys some liver for breakfast, he makes it for his wife, you know, things like that. Just ordinary daily life things. But the writing is so good. And the references are so numerous that you could study this book for the rest of your life and probably not uncover everything. He wanted to keep the academics busy for 100 years, I think. So there's a lot going on in here, and it's beautiful. Okay, the next one I pick is Jane Eyre. I contemplated taking the French version, which I do want to read maybe during Gothlet November this year. We will see. Sorry. I've still got allergies. I mean, I think I've always got allergies, but anyway. I love Jane Eyre. I've read it, I actually don't know how many times I've read it now. 3 or 4, I feel like. A few. And I've read many books about the Brontes, and I just am fascinated by them. And this book is gorgeous. And why do I have a bookmark partway through? I don't know why. Anyway, not relevant. So that's the next book. And then, okay, so I contemplated Lolita. This is my very banged up version because I got it secondhand, and it's seen better days. Oh, and then in one of these, you can see I had to look up, whoops, I'll try not to lose my spots here. Part of the pages have been ripped out, so when I was reading this in university, I had to write in, like, add extra pages with the missing text. So, but it's very good. I like these. I think this is I can't remember which brand this is. Anyway, it's a beautiful book that is very much not a love story, and I wouldn't trust anyone who says it is, but I love it. However, then I was thinking, what might be better in an apocalypse situation is Sinister, which I've read once as an audiobook, and I really want to get a hard copy version of it and read the physical book, because his use of language is also masterful. He was a gorgeous writer. Like, it's amazing. You can really just get lost in the beauty of his writing. And Sinister is an apocalyptic book, and I feel like on the first read through, well, I know I didn't get everything. Like, there's so much under the surface that I just know that I missed. So I have to reread that one at some point. And this is a book that I've already reread. Have I read this 3 times now? I think. This is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. The language here is also beautiful. Excuse me. You will learn more about whales and whaling and rope tying and, bizarrely, coffins than you ever thought you needed to know. But that's not really the point. I mean, it's a good story. I like the story. There are many tangents if you don't like tangents. Like, if you don't like Lord of the Rings because he can describe a tree for 3 pages, you're not going to like Moby Dick, but I love that sort of thing. When the language is just so beautiful and evocative, and so that I will definitely reread, probably several times in my life, as I will with this one. This is The Waves by Virginia Woolf. I've read this, I think, twice now, which is a travesty, and I will read it again because it is beautiful. Now, there is no plot, so I can't tell you what it's about because it's not about anything. It's about the experience of the waves. She said, on the back here, it says that she wrote, "I am writing to a rhythm and not to a plot," which is true. Like, you very much feel the rhythm of the ocean. You feel the ocean in this book. It's really astonishing. It's gorgeous writing. I love it. But it's more about the experience of being submerged in the words rather than any type of plot. There is no plot. So if you need plot or character development, it's just not going to happen. And then, for a bit of nonfiction, just for variety, because I do mood read sometimes, and if you're in an apocalypse and only have 12 books, that's going to be difficult. But Empire of Mind, A History of Iran by Michael Axworthy is a really good book. It's not super long, but it's so... bit of dust. Whoops! Ignore that. Apparently I need to dust my bookshelves. It is beautifully written, and it really reads like a fast-paced novel. Like, the history of Iran, and this goes back to the beginnings of Zoroastrianism and the Achaemenids and the Greeks. So it, well over 2,000 years old. And it's just, they have such a fascinating history, fascinating culture. I could read about it endlessly. There's another history book like that I'll get to about the Arabs. But that area of the world just fascinates me no end. And this book is, whatever ideas people have of like a dry, dull history book, this is not that. It is fast-paced and exciting and just so good. I will have to reread that sometime. Okay, so now these books, I have some of them in French, but I want to get them in French so I can read them in French, because they're either originally written in French or other languages and translated into English, in which case I'm not particularly attached to the English translation, even though in the case of this one, it's very good. This is The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende, and Margaret Sayers Peden, something like that, I think, translated this, and Magda Bogan translated this. Anyway, she is excellent Spanish translators. And it's a beautiful book, and it's been a long time since I've read it, so I've really got to get back to it. It is magical realism, which I love, and it's just so immersive and so captivating. I love her books. She's written a few other sort of more experimenting with other genres and a couple of other books that were, I think, less successful, although I can totally respect not trying to do the same thing over and over again and try something different. But this one was, I think, one of her most successful books. It's incredible, and I really want to get it in French to reread it. Another one I want to get in French, I've read this in English, is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. It's massive, but it doesn't, it's almost 900 pages, but it doesn't feel like almost 900 pages when you're reading it, except that it is the size of a brick and weighs a ton, but it moves at such a fast pace. It's so much fun. It's very much an adventure, revenge, betrayal, intrigue. What else is in here? Cracking pace, it says. Yes, good and evil. Epic saga of rich diversity that's complicated by the hero's ultimate discomfort with the hubristic implications of his own actions. It is so much fun. And so this is one of my goal books to read in French. My ultimate goal books are Victor Hugo ones, but I know he's way too difficult for me right now. So this is one of my stepping stone goal books that I really want to get to, but I need to practice more. But I will get that in French and get to that. Another one that I want to reread, maybe this year, is Amos Oz's Tale of Love and Darkness, which is a memoir. I think it's the only memoir on my list. And it's beautiful. It's a family saga and a magical self-portrait of a writer who witnessed the birth of a nation and lived through its turbulent history. So he was a boy who grew up in Jerusalem. He's Jewish. His family joined a kibbutz. I think his some of his grandparents or his parents may have grown up in Mandate, Palestine. Because I think there is discussion in here of people in his family having, Palestinian Arab neighbors and playing together as kids, and then the weird and really disorienting politics of having that sort of uprooted completely, where the kids that you grew up playing with you can't associate anymore because suddenly they're the enemy, and things like that. It's also, if you enjoy descriptions of just houses bursting at the seams with books piled on the stairs and everything, this is the book. And you can get this book, I think it was originally in Hebrew, so I have an English translation. There is a French translation. There's an Arabic translation, which I would not be capable of reading right now. I could probably maybe muddle through the French one and get the gist, which I may try one day. I have a lot of tabs in it as well. It's so beautiful. I love this book. The History of the Arab Peoples is the other one I've got. So Histoire des Peuples Arabes, excuse my pronunciation. I've read the English version. I'm a little bit into the French version and took a break. Because I can read this. The reason I can read this in French right now, even though it's difficult, is that when it comes to history, politics, economics, that sort of thing, all of the words are Latin-based, all of the specific to those departments or areas, Latin-based words. So they're the same in both languages, which gives you a bit of a step ahead. It's like reading, I listened to, I think, one of Carlo Rovelli's books about physics in French as well. And it kind of does trick you into thinking you understand more than you do because they're all Latinate words. So yes, I can get through this at a very slow pace. I think maybe I want to try and get through it by the end of the year. We will see how that goes. Because I am slow at reading French, but I can. Like, this is at a level that I can handle, and I've read it in English, and I've read many other books about the history of the Middle East, so I'm familiar enough with the context that I can figure out what they're talking about. And then the last book on my list is Modern Arabic Short Stories, because I am trying to learn Arabic, and it's a beautiful language, and this is so far above my reading level, it's not even funny, but it's got a bunch of short stories by Arab writers in the Middle East from, when was it published? 2008, so modernish. And it's a dual language book. So, you know, in an apocalyptic situation, I could sit down and figure this out if I had to. Now, am I going to? No, because I have other books that are stepping stones between where I am now and this. Because, oh, sorry, got distracted by magpies. Because this is too advanced for me at the moment. But if I had to rescue one of the books I have to do with Arabic on my shelves, it would be this one. Because I could get there. I think, yeah, Naguib Mahfouz is in here. Some other writers that I have not heard of yet, which is pretty cool. Leading authors of the short story form in the Middle East today. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. That is my list of 12 books, most of them enormous. That would take up half my suitcase in an apocalyptic scenario. But books are life, and I can't imagine continuing on without them. So that's my response to the 12 books you'd save in an apocalypse. I'm not going to tag anybody, but if you want to do this, I would love to, you know, let me know, and I would love to watch it. And thank you to Book Time with Elvis and to Robert Reader Books for their videos, because they were a lot of fun to watch. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.